What's going on, guys? This is TM25MD and the Trials of Mythron card list. So the entire expansion has been released, and so basically a double upload for today. You get to see basically old news, right? In my Team Wars with the older cards and the last of the Shimzar expansion, which you'll see for Vanar. But yeah. This is the card list. This will be an analysis of potential cards. This is my opinion of the cards, obviously, so disclaimer. Obviously, my thoughts are not infallible. I'm not omniscient in any way, so take this as you will. But I think I do have a little bit of insight, just from experience. What could be, playable, viable, meme, good, OP, broken, whatever, however you like to classify a card, right? Or an archetype, right? So let's dive right in it. Yeah. So starting off with Lyonar as always, and I guess they have a little bit of a description. Hey, Duelyst fans, instead of having you to wait for a nice card database page, we're going to show you the cards through here so you can get to theory crafting quickly. The following links will take you to each of the factions card list, and this will be this page will host Lyonar page. Okay, so let's stick with Lyonar. Let's see what they get. First card is 9 mana. Amaranthine Vow, which is a spell, legendary spell actually, so better be good. Summon around your general all friendly minions with provoke that died this game. Interesting. I'm not saying it's bad. It could be a huge tempo swing, right? So let's say you play, let's say you just play one of each, right? The standard on curve play. Like Silverguard Knights and Ironcliff Guardian. That's a heck. Actually, Duelyst I think is they moved that to Shimzar, right? So you can't even count the tombstone there. So never mind on that. Heck, you can even run on 4 mana now. You can run Primus Shieldmaster, and this could be decent with that. So 3, 4, 5 mana all the way up through Ironcliff 6. You can play Elix Stormblade, and really for 3 mana, if you get 3 minions, you already exceed, right? How much? I guess the plan is that they have to die though. So usually Lyonar's minions are pretty resilient, right? Silverguard Knight and Ironcliff Guardian and Elix Stormblade to an extent. Those are all very resilient minions. Excelsius is resilient as well, even as a base 6/6. But if you can get over 9 mana's worth, or even just like 2, like let's say 2 Elix Stormblade, let's say that's all you played, they just happen to die to like Holy Moon Static Rebuke or whatever it means, right? This doesn't take into account transform, because transform doesn't actually destroy a minion, and therefore killing them, right? Causing death. So this doesn't really play around that, and there's a lot of things like Blood of Air. There's aspect of Ravager. No more aspect of Shimzar, at least for standard laddered. What else can transform? Ursa Bomb, or what is it called? Aspect of the Bear, excuse me. So Vanar still has 2 things that can transform it. Vetruvian, in the reveals later, they have a card called Wither, which makes a card disappear. It's not really the most impactful card, in my opinion. But that's a different story. But that is a card that can deal with, that can prevent, something like this getting, full value, right? But is this a bad card? I'd put it along the lines of, it's very matchup based. So if you're playing against Vetruvian or Vanar, you just immediately replace this, in my opinion, until you can find a way where they are forced to use alternative means of actually killing it as opposed to transform. But usually if you're playing against Vanar, you're just looking to get as many minions down as possible. And a good Warbird Fae player would try and keep her distance against, you know, Lyonar, right? You know, you don't want to get in close, especially against Argia and Roar, doing all that fun stuff. Keeping a little bit of distance is how you play against those matchups. Is this a bad card? No, I don't think so. It's a very situational and matchup-based card. If you see it, it might be in 1 to 2 decks. Provoke lists, that could be interesting. If you just want to have more in there and look to aim for the late game, then this could go very well, because there are a lot of cards, good cards with Provoke, right? I don't think there's many cards with Provoke that have really bad stats, right? You know, Primus Shield Master 3/6, that's fantastic. Silver Guard Knight 3/5, Ironclad 3/10. Golden Justicar is a 4/6, 4/7. Don't quote me on that one. And that's also for 5 mana, and that's not those aren't bad stats. You look Stormblade, as I said earlier. All of them have good resilience, right? So you could definitely make this work in like a full-on Provoke list, which I don't think it would be a bad archetype at all. Because Provoke is very, very powerful, right? It's a very powerful ability. If this becomes popular, or those kind of lists become popular, we might see Hollow Grovekeeper, you know, pop up and whatnot. So I think a Hollow Grovekeeper is core, but not entirely sure. Next we got Bolster. Intensify, give a friendly minion +2 health. I'd rather just wait and play big minions, and if I happen to be playing a Divine Bond list, then play Divine Bond. This seems like a very channeled breath type of card. It's like, oh, it's interesting, but do I have room for this in my deck? Probably not. So I'm not the greatest, right? I mean, you could do the same thing. Okay, Sundrop Elixir also works on minions, and that costs one mana, and that heal. Granted, that's a heal, and this is granting health. Lyonar minions already have a ton of health. Between just playing a bunch of big minions or healing them if you're Zoran, Holy Immolation, there's actually a card that acts like Holy Immolation in this expansion. I don't see a real reason to boost health. It's kind of like Aura Nexus. I don't think it's that good. So if you want to meme with Divine Bond, like a full-on Divine Bond meme list, then yeah, go for this card. But other than that, I think this is just meh. Not even meh, it's bad. Next we got Divine Liturgy, which is also a spell, 6 mana, rare. Give all friendly minions attack equal to their health, plus attack equal to their health. So like a Divine Bond for everybody. It's a bit expensive, to be honest. And usually Lyonar just looks to a Divine Bond list. If they can get a couple minions, they're just looking for one to Divine Bond, right? And that usually seals up the game anyway, so this is a bit expensive. So basically a universal Divine Bond, or a mass Divine Bond is not worth it in my opinion. Because as Reason stated before, you're just looking to get one big minion to stick and get some big damage as well as some solid tempo. But again, these cards can go together, not together, but like in the same kind of list, where you're just looking to make the biggest Divine Bond ever, I guess. I don't know. I guess you can throw a copy of this, actually on the contrary, you can throw a copy of this in like a Swarm list. But if you're already playing something like Ethereal Congregation, this is just a win more card, so it's just like eh. Plus Ethereal Congregation is half the mana, so you can play 2 and get more value that way. So yeah, interesting. I don't think you'll see that much play though. So we got the Trial and Destiny Lyonar card, which is 5 mana, Grand Strategos, 5 mana, 5/5. So the Trial is this will be in your starting hand. Your opponent can see it, apparently, what I've read from the developers. Your opponent can see what Trial and Destiny card you have, which is a little bit interesting, because it's information that, I mean, granted, there's only one Trial per faction, right? Trial and Destiny card per faction. And then there's like a couple neutrals ones, if I remember correctly. But even then, it's information that your opponent's getting, and I don't like, given all the how Duelyst has been up until this point, there's no information outside of what general you're playing against. The game tells you, right? So it just tells you what general they're playing, and that's it. You have no information on their deck whatsoever. So it's interesting that they'll tell you. But anyways, back to the card itself. Summon 10 minions with 1 or less attack. This is definitely more of like a Brome card, because he can definitely do this. He can use this the most efficient way possible, because his Bloodbound spell gives a 1/2, so you know, if you play like 2 of them or 3 of them, that means you have 7 more. But I guess that means you can run something like Cryptographer and try and get some more 1 attack minions. What other 1 attack minions are there? Sunrise Cleric, Slow, and Silverguard Squire. I think that's it. Let me look through the rest. Yep, that's it for 1 attack minion. So 3 1 attack minions, different 1 attack minions in the list. So in the Lyonar faction rather. So getting this out will be a little bit of a challenge, but I guess that's why it's called a trial. So yeah, it's supposed to be easy. But anyways, promote the other minions at the end of your turn. So promote means they gain, they turn into a minion, transform, I think, into a minion that costs 1 more. So your Silverguard Squires can become Azurite Lions. They can become Windblade Adepts, right? They can be Windblade. The 1/3 that gains Spellblade, I think that's what it is. Gains +1 when your opponent casts a spell, so it can be one of those. I don't know what else you can do for 2 mana. But anyways, the big one would be from 2 to 3, right? So if you're able to promote it more than once, which I don't know if it's possible with Destiny. I don't know if it's an ongoing effect. I think it is. Going from 2 to 3 would be big, actually, and 4 to 5. 3 to 4, there's not really many really good 4 mana minions in Lyonar. But 5 definitely, definitely in 5. Possibility of getting an Ironclip is fantastic. 3 to 4, you can get Lycian Brawler, which is, you know, meh. But you know, it probably won't stick anyway. So moving on. Is this worth putting in your deck? Because it does cost 1 deck space. Unless you really want to play around with this card, I don't think it's worth the 1 card spot or the hand space, really. Because Trial and Destiny cards always take up the 6th slot in your action bar, and I don't think this card is worth it, to be honest. But if you really want to go on it, sure, why not? Next, we have a 3 mana 5/3 Zeal and Flying. Dead to Homeostatic Rebuke, but it plays around natural selection very nicely. So you can just, you're going second, right? As Lyonar, you drop this turn 1, contest mana tiles, trade with 1/2s or 2/3s, excuse me, 1/4s, and still live. And if your general wants to finish it off, they have to take 5. This can be great. I think this is a fantastic 3-drop. It works similar to, you know, the ranged minion 3/4 with Zeal ranged. It works similarly, but this is fantastic. I think. I don't think it's great, but I think this is a solid 3-drop, especially in a lower curve list, right? Flying, what does that mean? Why is this threatening in Lyonar? It's 3 mana. What can you do next turn? You attack something, get a little damage, holy immolate that area. So if this happens to stick with its ranged, with its flying intact, holy immolation is very threatening now. More threatening than it was. Simply because of this card. It's very difficult to, especially in the early game. This guy drops this turn 1, you get to play around holy immolation already, right? You don't just have to back off or position, you know, in a certain way. this thing could just come in, hit you for 5, Holy Immolate, and you're already down to 16 turn 2. Granted that they only developed one thing on the board, but you got to be careful about this card. You got to play around Holy Immolation. This is very scary, in my opinion. So the card itself is good, but the potential it has with the faction is great. So this is a very scary card, in my opinion. I know some people, I want to say it was No HJ did Lyonar, and that was like way back. I want to say that was like beta, or just when the game was released, and he just used Dragon Larks for, you know, Holy Immolation targets, right? So, you know, just play in the corner turn 1, just come in Holy Immolated area. And I think he also had Young Flamelings as well. So this could add to it, right? You can make like a Lyonar list, which I haven't seen in a long time, and I would love to see that again. So Lyonar, make this happen. Love the card. The design is awesome too, mainly because I love Griffins. It's been a childhood fantasy as a kid. So anyways, next we have Indominus, 7 mana, legendary, 7. Oh my god, 7/9. Your general is invulnerable but cannot move or attack. That's fine, honestly. That's fine if you're just playing big guys like this, you know. Because invulnerable is means you can't be damaged, right? This reminds me of like the Hulk, the Iron Man suit from, I don't know, was it Iron Man or the Avengers 2? Or one of the Captain Americas where Iron Man puts on this really big Iron Man suit, and it's called like the Hulk Smasher or the Hulk thing. Whatever, it looks like that. It has the big fists, big suit of armor. Basically a beefed up Ironcliff Guardian. It's like Ironcliff Guardian fused with like a Silverguard Knight. It's pretty dope looking, actually. So it's cool. You can't move or attack. If you're not taking any damage and you can get a good board going with this thing, yeah, why not? I think this is a good card. Yeah, it stops a lot of late game, you know. Arclight Regalia, you know, stopped Warbird pretty well, and Desolators as well. Except when 9 mana came around, they can double Desolator and, you know, slowly chip away at that. But this makes that endgame much harder, right? Especially if you've expended a lot of resources from your opponent, right? You know, Silverguard Knights, Ironcliff Guardians, things like Abyssian, they don't have a lot of answers for multiple big threats, right? The best they can do is, you know, lure a couple of them, punish a couple of them, and Necrotic Sphere if you're running that, right? So this can be very threatening to Abyssian. So not a bad card, but it's a good card. I think it's a good card in the late game. Very late game where you're both top decking, and this is what you top deck. It's not bad. It competes with EMP, which is a bit of a tight spot already because EMP is a really good card. So you'll be competing with this over EMP. But if you want to run this in Titan, wow! Imagine playing this. You play this and then Titan, or vice versa, whatever. Your artifacts are intact and your minion, well, granted, you can't move or attack, so you got to really pin down your opponent. So again, this goes back to adding in a lot of provokes to your list, right? If you want to make this work, right, with Titan. So you don't even need Titan for this to work, right? It's a 7/9, and your opponent has to deal 9 damage to this or transform it in order to get rid of it. So this is a very big threat. Good card though, not bad by any means. Next we got Legion, 3 mana, 3/2 common. Intensify, put 1 Crestfallen into your action bar. Shuffle a copy of this minion into your deck. And that means, you know, this is card draw, so it's not bad. The stats are pretty bad, but it has a good effect, right? Especially for a common. So putting a Crestfallen in your list gives you a lot of 1 mana Holy Immolation plays. But if you're already running something like, if you're already running Brome, granted it's a little bit harder to position, but if you're running something like Bloodtear Alchemist already, regardless if you're playing just like a Tempo, Bond, or even Swarm, you'll be running Bloodtear Alchemist because it's a very versatile card. So I guess you have more Holy Immolation targets. Intensify means you get to put 2 in your in your action bar after the second one, right? So you get to shuffle a copy of this. So basically you always have a full deck. Can never run out of cards, really, when you think about it. But yeah, keeping your hand full and a ton of little poops around, I guess. If you want to play Swarm, this could be interesting in Swarm, right? Getting 2 minions out for 4 mana and one of them with Provoke, I don't think it's bad, honestly. Interesting. It's 3 mana, it's very understated, so you gotta be careful when playing this card. But all around, it's a decent card by any means, so it's not bad. Lifestream, 1 mana spell, common. Fully heal a friendly minion, then draw a copy of it from your deck. This can be interesting, honestly. This doesn't mean add another copy to your deck. So if you fully heal, this effect means you don't have to actually heal a minion in order to gain a copy of it, right? Because it says then draw a copy of it from your deck. So you could just have an Ironcliff Guardian on 6 mana, play that, and then play this, and you get another Ironcliff from your deck. So this is very good for thinning your deck out. Tough to make room for this because it makes your selection of minions that much more difficult in Lyonar, and Lyonar likes. They have a lot of good minions, and narrowing it down to what you want is difficult, especially with these new cards coming in. So yeah, it'll be interesting how people rework this. This again, finding room for it. I would run 2 of them. I wouldn't run. You could run 3 of this, but like, I think this is better in the late game when you're getting low on cards and you've, I don't know, expended your Trinity Oaths already, or you need that last Ironcliff to protect you. I'm not sure. I'm not saying this is a bad card. This is a great card. It just making room for it would be difficult. Will be the challenge, in my opinion, for this card. So how people find room for this remains to be seen. It'll be interesting. Moving on, we got Lionize, which is 5 mana epic spell. Give celerity to a friendly minion directly behind your general. So this can apply to any minion, right? Faction or neutral, right? So if you have an EMP behind you, you give it celerity. It's a very interesting card. Personally, I think Divine Bond could just be better, right? Because if you have an EMP behind you, you play this card, it's essentially, you have the reach, right? Which is good. So there's that. And you can potentially do 18. But that's the same thing with Divine Bond. It's expensive, so when you cast this, you really need to, I guess, look for lethal, because this will very much be your turn, right? So casting this on a big minion, so casting this on something like that, or EMP, would be the way to go. Otherwise, I think Divine Bond is just strictly better because it's cheaper and it's pretty versatile, right? Giving Divine Bond to something like an Azurite Lion, which already has celerity, and can deal with just Divine Bond alone 10 damage, 14 if you roar it, which is a lot of damage, and that's only for 3 mana, and you can do that very early, right? In the early game. So yeah, this is a very specific card. Will people run it for the lulz? I might try it because it looks cool, but strictly being, I think Divine Bond is more versatile, and it's just cheaper, right? So I still think I give Divine Bond an edge over this card. But it's a cool card, nonetheless. Gives you extra reach if you need it. Marching Orders, 2 mana spell, rare spell. Give friendly minions directly in front of your general and behind your general. +2/+2. If they have Zeal, they cannot be targeted by enemy spells. So this is like an Aegis Barrier that can... Aegis Barrier I still think has an edge because it is card draw. But this gives it +2/+2. This can go very well, right? So this is, again, it's the thing is with Lyonar, they just have a lot of good cards. It's just putting them together is very difficult in my opinion. So this stat buffs in general to Lyonar is fantastic. It means you have to have a Zeal. You don't have to have a Zeal. Just giving 2 minions +2/+2 for 2 mana. Fantastic. This is great for backlined Azurite Lions, right? So right behind you, gains +2/+2, becomes a 4/5, and that's potentially 8 damage, 10 damage with Roar. This can be deadly. You know, especially if you're able to play like double 2-drop turn 1. This could go well in Swarm in my opinion, right? This buffs Crestfallens, right? Because Crestfallen is played directly in front of your general, so it makes your Crestfallens 3/4s, which are, you know, just 1 health shy of a Silver Guard, and that's pretty good. So I think this card's pretty potent, right? It's very threatening. You see one of this and you're able to play around it. Got to be very careful of how you play around the second one, right? This can be a very deadly card. Moving on, we got our artifact. I was wondering when we'd see an artifact. 6 mana epic artifact, Radiant Standard. Your general has +3 attack. When your general attacks, summon a minion that costs 3 from your deck nearby. What does that mean? You punch. Let's say you have an Arclight Regalia equipped. Hit for free. Basically hit for 5. 7 actually, because Arclight's +2, misses +3. Hit for 7 and then summon a... This is more of a win more card in my opinion. I think this is a little bit better than Dawn's Eye. Dawn's Eye is very good when it's paired with Arclight Regalia, right? It's very good in that regard. But this is fantastic. It's just very expensive. It's a very powerful effect, so this does patch up. You know, how do you play around artifacts? You force them to use that artifact and, you know, try and overwhelm them with minions, and, you know, so they don't get as much value from that artifact. This says no to that, really. Why? Because it gives you essentially Silver Guard Knight. If that's the only 3 mana in mana minion in your deck, and getting that out for free. If your opponent wants to trade damage into you, that's potentially 3 Silver Guard Knights out in front of you. So you gotta be very wary of of dealing with this, right? So you can do like an artifact Lyonar list, regardless of the general, really, and be okay. Honestly, you can do this with Brome too, and be very good. So this is a very powerful, very expensive, but very powerful effect. Anyways, moving on, we got War Exorcist, which is a 3/8 legendary minion for 5 mana, and it has Provoke. It's a 3/8, which, not the greatest. If it had 1 more attack, it'd be fantastic, but I think that'd be a little bit over the top. But dies to Plasma Storm. Anyways, at the start of your turn, Holy Immolation your damaged minions. So this won't apply to minions that are full health, obviously. So running a very big Lyonar is where I see this card will excel, because, you know, if you're unable to kill a big minion, it's got to be very wary of how you position, right? It makes this expansion seems to me like a very Holy Immolation centric kind of deck, and Holy Immolation is very strong as is, so, you know, more potential for Holy Immolation is just going to be like, wow. That's all I can say, is just wow, right? Because this thing can just keep punching your general, or the enemy general, or something, and it'll Holy Immolation itself, potentially for 7 damage, right? And if you run it with something like, I don't know, marching orders, oh boy, scary. There's a lot of combinations you can run with these cards, and I'm actually pretty excited to see it. We'll have to look to the rest of the expansion before I can say what deck I'll play first. But anyways, we got the last two cards. We got Windcliff Alarmist, which is a 4-mana 2/2 common. Opening Gambit, summon a 5/5 Windcliff Protector with Provoke from your deck. And it's basically a tutor, right? And it's right here, Windcliff Protector, 5-mana epic. 5 mana, provoke. When a friendly Windcliff Alarmist dies, transform this into the Windcliff. I don't like how this ended up going, because this is very. You can kill this easily for free. Has 3 less total stats than an Ironcliff Guardian, but it's immune to Plasma Storm, but it dies to Homeostatic Rebuke. This isn't really a great combo. I would imagine you get the choice of where to place your Windcliff Protector. Not entirely sure. Because it says summon, it doesn't say where or randomly or nearby or anything. So I would imagine you get the choice of where you get to summon this. Instead, has provoke. Excuse me, I don't know why I said protect. It means that this could stick around potentially a little bit better if you can position correctly. I don't know. I'm indifferent about this because this dies. There's a lot of 2 damage ways to deal 2 damage. There's Maw, Tempest, Phoenix Fire, Crimson Coil. I'm not saying that people play Crimson Coil. Plus that rotates out anyways. A lot of ways to deal 2 damage. General Punch. Especially if you're able to dispel this and not dispel this. Transforming 2/2s. I'm indifferent, right? So you can get rid of this by Tempesting, right? Or Homeostatic Rebuke. So these are all weak just to Magmar removal anyway. So I'm indifferent. I'm not saying it's bad. I just don't think it's that good in my opinion. If you play this blind, if you're not running Windcliff Alarmist, you're just playing a 5-mana 5/5 provoke. You're just better off playing a Golden Justicar. It has more health, and I think that's a little bit better for 5 mana, right? Plus, you get to move an additional space. So I think Golden Justicar is better than this. If you're not going to run Alarmist, then Justicar is better. Moving on, Songhai. Let's see what Songhai can do. Okay, we got starting off. We got a epic 2/6 for 4 mana. Bakezori, which is a whenever this minion is moved for any reason, draw a card. So I guess a lot of Songhai players have been complaining that Songhai used to have some of the best draw in the game, and rightfully so, right? They used to have Mana Vortex, they had Ancestral Divination, which were really powerful draw cards, as well as what else did they have? What's it called? Heaven's Eclipse. Right, Heaven's Eclipse used to be 4 mana, and 3 or 4 mana. It's been a while. I think it's 4 mana. Don't quote me, but the point is, it used to have a reduced cost, and Songhai arguably had the best draw in the game. And then when those got nerfed, Songhai didn't really have much draw outside of potential cards like Golden Rifki or Infinity Rifki. It gives you 3 minions for 1 less. That card as well. They still have Ancestral Divination, but that's just bad. It's 4 mana. This one actually has a body, so this can go very well with Kalios, right? If Kalios decides to expend his resources early, this is fantastic. Has 6 health, means it survives Circle of Life, Blood Tear Alchemist, plus Holy Immolation, Mercancer, Lava Slasher, Thunderhorn, a lot of things really. The thing is, it just has 2 attacks, so it dies to some common removal, mainly Magmar, right? Plasma Storm, Natural Selection. But other than that, this card's pretty decent, right? In terms of draw. Would I run this over Spelljammer in an aggressive list? Probably not, right? This is very. I would imagine this is better in Kalios because he has the option of moving it freely with Blink, but a 5-mana Blink on this isn't the strongest of plays, right? You're spending 4 mana, technically 5 if you decide to Blink it to draw a card. So it's kind of eh. If you're running this in any other Songhai list that's not Kalios, it's basically running Mogwai because Mogwai is a 2/3 that whenever it moves, you draw a card. So this is like a bigger Mogwai, essentially. So yeah, I don't think it's that great unless you really want to tutor it for Kalios. But Kalios already has a pretty decent 4-drop 4-mana minion slot already. They have, he can use Dial. Actually, no, he can't use Dialtis anymore. He has Thunderhorn still, and Flame Wreath. So adding another 4-drop in there, is it worth? Probably just go with Spelljammer, right? So it's just, I think this card just gets outclassed by some other cards already. So, anyways, we got Coalfist, which is a really jacked panda, which I like. 4/4 common for 4. Intensify, give a random minion nearby, friendly minion nearby, +2 attack this turn. So basically a bigger Primus Fist. So if you play a bunch of these along with the new Intensify mechanics, you can get a lot of value out of this. But initially, I would just play Primus Fist. Is this a bad card? No. Think about it. Why? You play, I don't know, you're going second. You play your 3-drop or your couple 2-drops, right, with like Scroll Bandit or whatever. You can play this card in the following turn. You can deal some pretty decent damage, right? And it's a 4/4. So this is where this card shines is in the very early game if you're going second, right? So let's say that you just lead off with a Lantern Fox. You can't clear their 2/3 or 1/4. You play this minion next turn. You can clear it, and you get a. Still have your Lantern Fox, and you'll have a 4/4 and a Phoenix Fire in hand. So this is where that's like the ideal scenario, right? That's where I think this card shines the most. Obviously this can be great in the late game, especially if you played like 1 already, because +4 attack, kind of like Killing Edge, right? So the next time you play this card, it's random, right? But if you have 1 minion and you position it in such a way, you can get this to target the minion that you want, right? Pretty easily. It's not that difficult for me to see that you can make this selective. You can choose it, who you want to give that attack buff. So 4 attack and developing a 4/4 in the mid to late game, I think is pretty strong, right? Basically like a Killing Edge, right? You're giving to a minion, and if you're Killing Edge, it's not always going to be on a backstab minion, right? Some people Killing Edge their Zendos and that's lethal. Some people Killing Edge their EMPs and that's lethal. So it's kind of like that in that regard, except you're developing another body. It's a 4/4. So if you're using this on a minion that has already good resilience, like a high health pool already, you're just developing 2 threats, right? Your opponent takes 4 additional damage on top of whatever damage the minion that gets this buff has, and they have to potentially deal with this 4/4. So is this a bad card? No. But it's similar in the regard to this. You have 4 mana minions already, so you're going to have a very tight spot on what 4 mana minions you want. What do you have, right? Let's go over it again. If you're a budget player, you can play Primus Shieldmaster. That's pretty. This would actually go very well with Primus Shieldmaster, so that's an option as well. Sunsteel Defender is a very good card, regardless of the faction or the general you're playing. It can go very well. Granted, it works better in Riva and Kalios, but you can throw a Sunseal Defender. Sunseal Defender is a very good 4-drop, so it can go well in any deck, right? You got Sunseal Defender, Thunderhorn, Flame Wreath if you're Kalios, Spelljammer. So you have a lot of 4-drops, and plus Songhai has a lot of 3-drops as well. Granted, they lost Battle Pando, but they have a lot of strong 3-drops already. So with the Sentinels, Lantern Fox, so the 3 and 4 mana slot already. If you add this card in now, it's going to be very tight on what you choose, right? So that's you got a lot of diversity here. So choosing what you want in your deck for 3 and 4 mana plays will be it'll be tricky and difficult. I still think Lantern Fox and Mind Cage Oni are going to be very good picks. Top picks for the 3 mana slots. And Thunderhorn, if you decide to run it, Spelljammer will be at the top of people's lists to include, especially with all these Intensify cards, and you just want to draw, and try and get some more of these Intensify effects. Then those will be at the top of your list, right? So fitting this in, yeah, if you're running an Intensify list, it'll be tricky to fit it in, but is it a bad card? No, I think this card's fantastic. This is a very good card. I'll probably play with it myself because I love the design, honestly. So I have big expectations for this guy. I love pandas, and I hope he does well. Anyways, we got a 0 mana. We got our Trial and Destiny card, Hidetsu, the Ebon Ox, which is a 0 mana 5/5, summon 7 manas, 7 minion from your action bar with different costs. Oof. It makes sense that this costs 0 because that's going to be pretty difficult. That means, let's just say 1 through 7. That means you're gonna, what can you have on 1 mana? Katara is gone, so I don't think there's any 1 mana minion, right? Nope. So what can you do for 1 mana? You can do Bloodtear Alchemist, right? Swamp Entangler for the memes. If you really want to satisfy that. I think this is, again, you need to build a deck. Just like Lyonar, you need to build a deck around this. 1 mana, Bloodtear Alchemist, Dream Shaper, right? That's actually not bad, because that gives you, if you want to take the 2 damage, you can get the 1 mana and draw a card, so you can further look for the other minions. So Dream Shaper and Bloodtear Alchemist are potential candidates for the 1 mana slot. Definitely not Swamp Entangler. Swamp Entangler actually wouldn't be bad, but yeah, it's bad. Anyways, we got, what else? 2 mana, you got a lot of things. 3 mana, a lot of things. 4 mana, 5. It's just, Songhai, you can actually make this work actually easier than you think, because 6 mana is probably going to be, Zendo or Trinity Painter. 7 mana EMP maybe. I don't think they have any 7 mana. Let me look. There's no 7 mana play, so you can do a lot of things for the 7 mana. It's probably going to be EMP if anything. You're going to run this, you're going to run EMP. 5 mana, what would you run for 5 mana? Kron. Nah, you wouldn't run Kron. 5 mana? No 5 mana. Actually, hey, they can run this thing. So you got options, right? You definitely have options. Neutral 5 mana plays aren't really the greatest from what I can think of at the top of my head. I don't think there are any great 5 mana neutrals. Maybe there are with this expansion, but I just can't think of any right now. But for me, the real trial would actually be the 5 mana minion, because you got good 1 through 4s, and you got a good 6, and you got a good 7. For me, it's just playing the 5 mana minion. You can use Scarlet Viper, I guess, which I actually did in my November S rank. I hit S rank 2 in November, and I actually used 1 copy of what's it called, Scarlet Viper, and it actually wasn't bad. So for the real trial here is, in my opinion, playing a 5 mana minion. You can easily make it blue conjure. If you're playing Arcanist, right, in Zendo combo, you can easily do that. But that means you're gonna have to run EMP in Arcanist, and running something like Trinity Wing, or you can just run blue conjure. Blue conjure is never bad to have in your deck. Yeah, Blue Conjure is never bad to have in your deck, so that's where I can see this card played. Would I make room for it? No, if I'm looking to make like a super competitive deck. If I wanted to make this competitive, you have to really go all in, and because it takes up one hand space, right? You know, it's the 6th slot in your action bar. So Songhai likes to have a relatively full hand, you know, whether it be with like Phoenix Fires if you're a combo list, or juxtapositions plus minions in your hand, or you know, with Mist Dragon Seal as well as removal. So just having 5 slots for to do things, you know, cuts your options down a little bit. So that's why I say you need to really build with this card. It shouldn't be your primary focus, in my opinion. You should have a good. I think the best way to do it is like have a strong mid-range deck, and that's where I think this card will be used best, in my opinion. Anyways, moving on, we got our artifact, 1 mana. Oh wow, epic artifact, Horned Mask. Your general gets +1 attack after a friendly minion with backstab attacks gets +1. So this is backstab support. Not necessarily. It's interesting, right? So if you Mist Dragon Seal your Scroll Bandit, it's already a 2/4. So after it attacks, it deals 4 damage, and it becomes a 3/5, which is actually significant, right? Because it's surprise Mecanter, Flash Mecanter, right? If you do that early to your opponent, if your opponent's going second, Flash Mecanter won't KO it. They'll have to punch it and take an additional 3, so they'll take 7 total. Lava Slasher won't get it. So this is like it's not even, I wouldn't call it a replacement for Crescent Spear, because they do entirely different things, but they do give the +1 attack, which is significant. So there aren't any 1 mana minions I think of in Songhai anymore. Katara is just over the top, but imagine this with Katara. Oh boy. You know, you play, granted it is 2 cards, so you have to really go all in on that Katara, right? So Mist Dragon the Katara deals, becomes a 2/4, backstabs for 3, does 5, and becomes a 3/5. So you potentially take 8 damage. But I think this is better with Scroll Bandit, right? Just putting it out of range of, you know, Thunderhorns. Falcius is the big one, right? So putting your smaller 2 mana minions with backstab after Mist Dragon Seal to 5 health, that's going to be big. It's going to be very big. Such that it may force your opponent to use other sources of removal, right, rather than just trading, right? So I think this can be potentially good. Again, Kalios likes to look for... You don't have to run this in Kalios. It's just Kalios can utilize the backstab minions the best, right? Because he has Blink. Finding room for it, right? Because Kalios likes to have a very minion-centric deck. And some Kalios lists are so tempo, they don't even run Phoenix Fire. To be honest, some just run straight minions, some don't even run Killing Edge, so it'll be interesting how people fit this into their deck, right? So, anywho, it goes well with Killing Edge too, I guess, because actually no, this can go well with Obscuring Blow, 1 mana as well, so you can give any minion backstab, or you give your general backstab. But you're not a minion, so you won't get a buff. Imagine if you could. Oh boy! But it'll be interesting to see how this card is played. I don't think it's bad. I think it's decent. Yeah. Anyways, we got a 3 mana 2/2 Kaido Expert. Backstab 1. Whenever this minion backstabs, summon a minion with backstab that costs 2 or less from your deck nearby. So it's a tutor, and it's contingent on getting a backstab off. It's a 2/2. I don't think it's that good. The stats are just so bad. You dice to General Punch. Granted, you're going to be playing this out of reach, obviously. Otherwise, it just dies for free. Dice to Tempest, Phoenix Fire, Bone Swarm, Crimson Coil, and the Abyssian spell, which I still haven't remembered what it's called, that deals 2 damage. Dramatic Hold doesn't get it actually, but there's a lot of things that just deal with it. Its health is too low. It's an interesting effect, but its health is too low. Its stats are just too bad, which is a shame. It looks kind of cool with the sword. Anyway, oh my god, is this a mantra? 11 mana, so it has to have cost less. Kensho Vortex, which is a legendary spell. Cost 1 less for each spell you cast this game. Whenever you cast a spell this turn, summon a minion that costs up to 2 more nearby your general. Whenever you cast a spell this turn, summon a minion that costs 2 more. So if you play Phoenix Fire, you can summon a 4 mana minion. So ideally you want to make this as cheap as possible, right? With the intensified effects, right, like with these, which we'll go over, you can get this to be pretty low, or low enough, where you can get some value when you cast this spell into other spells. I don't know if you would want to make room for this in Mantra, because Mantra is pretty much your win condition, and then Spiral if it doesn't win that way, right? Or 8 gates if you want to win another way. So I don't know if you have enough room, if you can make room for this in Mantra. Because I'm a pretty big Mantra user myself, call me cancerous, but sometimes I just like playing it. Whenever you cast a spell this turn, there's summon a minion that costs up to 2 more. So it doesn't have to be from your deck. So I would imagine it's a random minion. Could be a random faction minion, right? So if this costs 4 mana and you play a spell, this is interesting. I'll have to read more and test this out because I can't get a full idea on it. But I don't think you would run this in Mantra. It's too expensive and it doesn't really synergize with the list at all. Because Mantras usually don't run any minions. It doesn't run any minions outside of you know, potentially Rockadoptera and Adjudicator, right? Some people run Lantern Fox, but you know, that's just taking away more spells, and you don't really need all the Phoenix Fires in my opinion. So I don't think you'll run this in Mantra, but I need to think on this a little bit more. So I'll get back to you guys on this after the expansion hits. It's interesting. It's very interesting, but I don't want to call this the next Cohen of memes, but it might just be. I'll get back to you on this one. Knuckle Storm, 1 mana spell, intensified, deal 1 damage to an enemy, so like a blood tier, without a body, and but it has the potential to, you know, deal more damage, right? If you're running, I wouldn't run this in any other list besides Mantra. Why? Because you have Kotatsu, and that's pretty much the tempo you need already. So you actually, that's not necessarily true. You can run this in Mantra and 8 gates. But yeah, outside of those lists exclusively, this is pretty trash. So just Mantra and 8 gates got a nice little card to their arsenal, really. And I'll do Mediate next, because shuffle 5 cards of the spell you cast most recently into your deck. So this or another Mediate, because imagine casting double Mediate, right? And you draw a bunch more of them. You got a really powerful Mantra. 0 mana spell. Oh boy. So it doesn't have to be just Knuckle Storm, right? That you're shuffling into your deck. Granted, by shuffling it into your deck means that you'll have to have Mantra early and try and reduce its cost that way, or find a way to get multiple, to increase your odds of having Mantra in hand, because you know, you're adding 5 copies into your deck. That decreases your odds of drawing Mantra, right? So that's why I'm a little bit skeptical on this card, but you can definitely make it work in a Mantra deck. Would I say run 3 of these? No. If you're going to run this in Mantra, maybe just 2 copies. Because running 3 of these, you already run Mana Vortex as is, which you can actually cut. You don't have to run Mana Vortex at Mantra, but I run 2 copies to, you know, potentially have it make a greater impact. But very rarely do I actually use the Mana Vortex, so you can definitely cut it. It's gonna be interesting, but I wouldn't say run 3 cards of this in a Mantra list at all. But we got a 2/5. This is a really good stat. For 4 mana, Massacre Artist. Legendary minion. Backstab 2. After this minion attacks and backstabs attacks and backstabs. So it doesn't, oh, it doesn't have to be a backstab, so that's actually pretty good. All attacks are backstabs this turn. So front stab. so even if your minion doesn't have backstab, they can just go face and not take any damage. This is fantastic. This is fantastic. This is really good. And it's a 4-drop. It has 5 health too. What's so good about this at 5? Its attack is low, which makes sense because it has backstab. But its effect is great. It has a good health pool. Again, what did I say earlier about 4-mana minions like this? It's already contested. You gotta find room for it. But I think this can make its way to the top of someone's priority list in the 4-mana slot for Songhai. This is fantastic. I think that's all that needs to be said. This is a great card. Your general will... It's kind of like... I don't want to say it's like Boulder Breacher with Bond, right? You know, all damage doesn't get counter. There are no counterattacks on damage, right? It's kind of like that, except it's for your minions. It doesn't apply to your general. But if you're able to flood the board, or heck, you don't even have to flood the board. You just play your backstab minions backlined or relatively close by, but they can't get killed. Play this card, and hopefully it takes a while to set this up actually, but its effect is very powerful. This is a decent card. It's a good card. I'm very interested in seeing how this card works, especially after you miss Dragon Seal this. Deals 5 damage and becomes a 3/6. Still dies to Plasma Storm, which makes sense. It'd be a little bit much if it was 3 attack. And after a Mist Dragon Seal, it just gains attack outside of Plasma Storm range. It'd be a little bit over the top in my opinion, but this is a great card, I think. Anyways, moving on. We got a 3-mana, 3/4, just vanilla with flying, Orizuru. And not much to say. It's a 3/4 with flying. But again, the 3-mana slot is already highly contested with Mikey G and Lantern Fox. Would you run this over it? Probably not. Those cards are just really good to run in your deck, but yeah, I don't see a real reason to run this card over those 2 cards, to be honest. But it's interesting. It's a very good budget card. If you don't have Lantern Fox or anything, right? It's a 3/4. It's pretty big. Doesn't die to a General Punch or anything like that. It's decent. It's not a bad card. It's just this is a decent Gauntlet card actually. It's a 3/4 for 3 mana, right? With flying, right? So you're going second in Gauntlet. You play this, and you can pretty much guarantee that you'll get a 5-mana play next turn, right? With this card. So this is going to be a fantastic Gauntlet card. But other than that, in Constructed, it's good. They're just better cards, really. But it looks cool. All the cards so far actually have been looking pretty cool. So, anyways, we got our epic spell, which is Panda Tentiary, which is a 3-mana spell. Surround the enemy general with friendly pando that disappear at the start of your next turn. I'd rather just play Onyx Bear Seal. Like, what does this do? This shuts down, I don't know, Artifact, Riva, right? Which really hasn't seen much play. It shuts down pretty much those 1-man army kind of decks, which again hasn't been seen that often. They're just better 3-mana spells you can play, and a lot of them are removal. So Bamboozle and Onyx Bear Seal. I don't see a real reason to play this card outside of memes. Delays your opponent, I guess, if you're looking to set up a combo. Just surround your opponent and allows you to retreat a little bit. That's the only real reason, is trying to set up a combo. But if you're a combo deck, you should know how to set up a combo, and you shouldn't need a card like this to execute your strategy, right? It should already be in your game plan and in your deck on how you're going to execute that strategy. Anywho, we got Phoenix Barrage, 5-mana spell, common. Deal 3 damage to anything. Put a Phoenix Fire into your action bar. Sounds pretty bad. because it only deals damage to one specific target. And then you put a Phoenix Fire into your hand. So this is basically just 2 Phoenix Fires for 5 mana. It's just that you're paying 1 extra mana to have the luxury of having an additional Phoenix Fire in your hand. I think it's pretty bad. Anyways, it's interesting. I feel like if reworded or decreased in mana, then it could be potentially decent. But it's expensive, and there are other cards that can get you Phoenix Fires, really. Geomancer, I'd rather, like, why would I play this? I play Geomancer, I develop a 5/4 and have Phoenix Fire for the next turn, right? And potentially for the rest of the game, so I just played Geomancer over this card. Oh, is Geomancer? No, Geomancer is Rise of the Bloodbound. So we can still play Geomancer. But when Geomancer goes away, maybe this card will see play. But other than that, it's pretty poop. Anyways, we got Second Self, 2 mana, rare spell. Put an exact copy of a friendly minion into your action bar. It's good. It's expensive, in my opinion, because you're paying 2 mana to get another copy of that card. If it's a backstab minion, then there's no real reason to play this card. This can go well with Zendo. But at that point, I would just rather play Killing Edge. Unless I really needed a second Zendo or like a second EMP. Actually, with an EMP, this could be decent. Again, finding room for this card will be difficult. If anything, you just run 2 copies. It's a good card. It's just, I don't know, it's a win more card, I think. Or just to keep your hand relatively full. Yeah, that's all I can think of. Yeah, that's all I can think of for this card. Seems decent, but, you know, win more card and requires space in your deck. Which I don't know if you can really afford, especially if you're aggro. I don't think you would run this in aggro. Or mid-range. I think mid-range would be the best place to put it. Mid-range or control. Other than that, it's pretty eh. Anyways, we got Zenkai Cannoneer, which is a 5 mana 4/4 legendary minion with ranged. Wow. Whenever you summon a minion with ranged, that minion gains rush. The issue with this card is, yeah, it has ranged. If this is the only ranged minion you're running in your deck, then gives your Heartseekers inner focus, actually. Right. Free inner focus, and then Killing Edge. That's a contingent on this card's sticking. The beauty is, it does die to Homeostatic Rebuke, but it does have 4 attacks, so it's less likely to be not selected. It's less likely to be what's it called? It can't die to Plasma Storm, but it does die to Homeostatic Rebuke, Lava Slasher, and Mecanter. But you can play around Mecanter. Tough to play around Lava Slasher. And I guess this puts it in range of Lava Slasher, so it's not the whole, in range of Phoenix Fire, so I don't think that's the worst thing in the world. Yeah, I don't think this is particularly a super strong card, but it's not bad. This would be very good in like silver and gold. You know, just cheese out a couple wins if your opponent doesn't have any answer for range. This will be very good in Gauntlet if you happen to draw it, especially with Riva, right? This would be very good in Riva, actually. If you draft this in with Riva, oh my god. Because on 6 mana, right? You don't have to play this on 5 mana. You play this on 6 because your Bloodbound spell is still up on 6 mana when you're going second, and got a free inner focus, Heartseeker. So that can be potentially decent. But in constructed, it's a little awkward. It gets really shut down by Magmar, but a lot of things get shut down by Magmar, so I can't really talk much there. 4 mana damage, Cryogenesis is the only thing I can really think of as a spell that deals it. Holy Immolation dies to Holy Immolation. Thunderhorns as well, still around. This can just easily, I wouldn't play this naked, right? Unless you really, this is your only play. Because if you play this naked, Vetruvian can take advantage of it with Blood of Air. Though spending a Blood of Air on this is actually good, but especially if you're running something like Zendo or EMP in the top end of your list, then expending those Blood of Airs early is actually pretty good, so this is not horrible. And plus this can also get Sans World, so not the most efficient play. But I think this is best when used on 6 mana. Just getting a free Inner Focus Hot Seeker, right? If you're Riva, yeah, you probably won't be able to Killing Edge it, right? You could do a 9, I guess you can Killing Edge it, but at that point, you're already at 9 mana. What could you do better than this play? But other than that, I think this is a very good low ranks card. Would I put it in my deck? Maybe if I'm looking to fulfill this Ebon Ox trial, then maybe I'll put it in there. But at that point, if there are no other range minions like in my list, like there's Key Beholders and there's what's it called? It's a 2/3 with range. I'm tired today. Sorry guys. 2/3 with ranged. There's that, but that slot's already filled up with good, strong 3-drops. So I don't know if you want to put your ranged minion in there. If anything, it would probably just be Key Beholder. Yeah. So there's that, and it's a decent card, but I wouldn't play it unless I'm trying to fulfill this and I don't have other good 5-drops. At that point, I probably just play Blue Conjure, because you can never go wrong playing Blue Conjure. So, so yeah, that's Songhai for you, and let's move on to Vetruvian. And okay, let's start up top. Oh man, we're not even halfway through. Why is this neutral? Oh no, that's not neutral. Anyways, we got Vetruvian. They got, to start off, a common 4-mana spell, Accumulate Nimbus. Makes me think of Up and the little boy trying to say Accumulate Nimbus and what kind of clouds they are. We got Intensify, summon 2 Wind Dervishes nearby your general. What seems like pretty meh is actually, if you happen to draw another copy of this, what does that mean? It means you play 4 Wind Dervishes nearby your general, and that's 8 damage. So if you get lucky, you play this on 4, and then play this on 5. If you include general hits, right, 6 damage on the first one, and then 10 damage on the next one. So 10 plus 6, that's 16 damage you can potentially do if you happen to get lucky and draw 2 of these on 4 and then onto 5 mana. I don't even want to know what happens when you play this on like your 3rd copy, right? You're probably dead if you play this, because that means six Wind Dervishes, right? That could potentially just go face. This card is very good. You don't even need to run what's it called? Obelisk. Obviously, this does very well with Obelisk, because if you happen to stick a Fireblaze and just play this, that's 6 damage plus general hit, 8 damage, and you play this again. 4 minions with that's 4 3/2s with rush. That's 12 damage. If you happen to have a Fireblaze down, you play Fireblaze on 3, this on 4. Oh my god! You just got to be out of range of the enemy general, otherwise, you're in a world for pain. This is a very good card, and I don't like it because it's good. Yeah, I don't like it because it's good. Moving on, we're going away. This is a good card. We're moving on. Adam Klinger, which is a 3-mana 1/5. Whenever you equip an artifact, this minion gains plus attack equal to the artifact's cost. So, Spine Cleaver, this becomes a 6/5. Hexblade, this becomes a 6/5. Wildfire Ankh, this becomes a 4/5. Even with it's not really artifact support. I guess this was something that you would play with artifacts, obviously. But it doesn't mean you have to run this in an artifact list. There's no Falcius, actually, so is this a replacement? Could you run this in the 3-mana slot? Yeah, why not? But would this be in every Vetruvian list? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Specifically trying to give artifact support, right, to Vetruvian. So yeah. Moving on, we got a Circle of Fabrication. Sorry, I just need some water. This is a long live, guys. Sorry. 9 mana. Oh my god. Vetruvian in 9 mana spells. Got Monolithic Vision, which isn't entirely a horrible spell, but this will compete with it. Circle of Fabrication, legendary spell. Kind of looks like the Pandora elements around her. But anyways, summon one of each obelisk from your deck on random spaces. One of each obelisk. So you can get, if you run all of them, get a Trigon. Oh, it's on random spaces, so you can get really unlucky and get them all in the corners. Boy. This literally sounds like circle of defecation. They just changed a couple letters. So you get one of each. How many different ones are there? There's Fireblade, or excuse me, this starts low. This only gets good if you run like every single obelisk, right? That includes Windstorm. And Windstorm is just bad. But getting Trigons down in the new legendary one, would it start off in build form? Right? Would it start off in build form? I don't know what I forget what it's called, but it's the obelisk from the last expansion for 3 mana that duplicates itself. Would it start off in build form? I would like to say no, because it's summoning it, and it's not building it, right? That's actually interesting. Discoverable. Discoverable. I wouldn't invest in this card right away, for me personally, but this only gets good if you're running every single obelisk, because it's only one of each. So you're gonna have what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 obelisks total. Yep, this at most can give you 6 obelisks. So 5 if you're not running Windstorm. So yeah, and obviously you can't have Soulburn obelisks, right? Those only come from Allomancer and Nimbus, so you won't be able to get that, I don't think, from it. So actually, there is a way you can do it. It would be with you have a Nimbus or an Allomancer, and you reassemble it, throw it back into your deck, and then you can play it. And yeah, you can get more from it, but that's super specific. So moving on, we got 2 mana, 2/1, Dust Drinker. It's also a Dervish. It's worth noting. Intensify. Deal 1 damage to the enemy general, and this minion gains +1 health. So it becomes a 2/2 and deals 1 damage. It's like a Blood Tier Alchemist that goes face. Aggro. I don't know if Aggro Xerox would run this. If you get 2 of these, it becomes a 2/3 and deals 2 damage to face. Get your 3rd copy, becomes a 2/4 and deals 3 damage to face. It sounds really nice in the grand schemes of things when you put it that way. Like, oh my god, I'm going to draw all 3 of these, and that's, 6 damage, right? And I have a bunch of minions. But I would run this because there is this card right here, which turns your, which we'll go over a little bit. So this is interesting. Would you run it into Dervish list? An Obelisk? It's tough to make room, right? Obelisk, you have your 2 obelisks, obviously, Firestorm and Ethereal Obelisks, and then that gives you the choices of, especially how low of a curve you really want your deck. You got your Doomcasters, right? And you have Primus Fists, you got Blood Tier Alchemists, you got Flameblood Warlocks that you can throw in your low curve aggro or just obelisk Xerix, right? So finding room for this will be interesting. It does seem nice, but I think you can get away without it. It's a nice card, but you can get away without it. Because I don't think the 1 damage might come into play, but I value the health more, right? Of a sturdy 2-drop with at least 3 health. That's how I like it. Unless its effect is really powerful, like Blood Tier. Well, granted, that's 1 minion. What would be Phantasm for a Byzantine? It gives them minion +2 attack. You need a really good, well, 1 now, but you need a really good reason to run a 2 mana minion that doesn't have 3 attack. It has to have a really good effect in order to play it. Right. Anyways, 5th Canopic, 5 mana, 4/8. Oh my god, that's comparable to Ironcliff stats. That's 12 total. It's just 1 less. Anyways, oh my god. The enemy general cannot cast their Bloodbound spell. That's not bad. Though I just played the Nimbus instead. Oh no, Nimbus is Shimzar, right? I think Nimbus is Shimzar. If it is, that's then this could easily take its place, right? Comes shuts down Pink Punish from Cassava. Stops Swarm Lilith. Kalios can't blink. Riva can't Heartseeker. This is fantastic. Stops Warbird. This is like Mage Sworn. But granted, Van Ark can just, use Chromatic Cold or any other its removal spells to deal with this. It doesn't really shut it down. Mage Sworn does a better job at that. But shutting down the Bloodbath spell with this stats, it's pretty good. It's not a Dervish, thankfully. But yeah, this is a very powerful effect. With really good stats, it avoids every single one of Magmar's removal, barring Thumping Wave, and Metamorphosis, but the more frequent removal, it dodges all of them. 4 attack means it probably won't get Natural Selection unless there's like a Lava Slash on the field, and just this minion, then it can get Natural Selected. Plasma Storm, no problem. Rebuke still has 4 health, so this is fantastic. This is very good stats. This is a good minion. Kanum Ka, 5 mana, 3/3 Flying Rush. Dying Wish, a random friendly dervish disappears, summoning a Kanum Ka. Am I saying that right? Kanum Ka in its place. This card's really good. This card's really good. Especially with Xerix, right? You have a poop on. What do you do on 6 mana, right? You play your poop dervish, and then you play this minion. It's good against Vath, right? It trades right into Vath, and it makes another one. I'm not saying there is ways to make this not go infinite, but deal a lot of damage. Deal a lot of damage just by constantly replicating itself. And this demands hard removal, even if you only have like 1 or so dervishes, right? Imagine this card with Cataclysmic Fault. You play your Cataclysmic Fault and then you play this thing. You got a lot to deal with. Oh my god, what do I have to say? This card has potential to deal a lot of damage and needs immediate removal. Blood of Air, Throwback, Sandswell Reader. What else? You got a Chromatic Cold this. You can't even Nat select it, especially if they have another Dervish on board, right? So this gets really powerful if you have a Dervish, and it's really not that hard to get a Dervish to stick on board. So this gets really strong, really fast. This is very potent. Gotta be careful of this card. This card and this card are very good. They are very good. You gotta be wary of these 2 cards. If there are 2 cards to look out for, to play around when you start this expansion, these 2 cards. If you're playing against Vet, these are the 2 cards you want to watch out for. Anyways, moving on from broken cards, we got Metal Melt. And I say broken very loosely. They're not broken, but they're very good, very good. They might be broken, remains to be seen, obviously, because you can't say it's broken and the expansion isn't even released yet. But they are very good. We got Meta Melt, 2 mana spell. Equip a friendly artifact that was destroy this game. A little bit of RNG, right? If you played more than 1 artifact, like let's say you play a Wildfire Ankh and a Spine Cleaver, right? Becomes a 50-50, but those are still very good odds, and Sock would happily take either of them, really, right? So this is good. Would you run 3 copies? Yeah, in an artifact stock list, yeah, you can run 3 copies of this. But would it be most efficient to just run 2? Probably, yeah, probably. But yeah, by no means is this a bad card. I think this is exactly what Sock needs to try and bolster herself up a little bit more and to be competitive. And I think this expansion is doing her a lot of service, really. But anyways, we got our Trial and Destiny minion, 5 mana, 3/3, Notion of the Starless Eternity, Trial. General reaches the other side. When the general reaches the other side of the battlefield with an equipped artifact. So basically, you just got to get to the other side of the wall of the battlefield, and each equipped artifact gives your general a tier of ascension. There are 3 tiers, as laid out by The developers, the first tier, so if you make it across with just one artifact, you get Frenzy, and if you make it across with 2 artifacts equipped, you get Flying, which is the biggest one in my opinion, and the third one is Celerity, which is very good, but I think Flying is the best one, because you permanently get Flying. I think you can dispel the General. Not entirely sure. I think you can dispel it. If not, permanent Flying is insane. It's really insane. Means your opponent will, especially Voth, will just have to run around the board, even with Finality. What does that matter? You're just running around and doing things. This could go very well with Cataclysmic Fault, right? Your opponent needs a way to dealing out of hand damage or range damage to you, because you can just fly from corner to corner to corner, and your opponent has to deal with poops every turn. So I think this is definitely sock support, but you can definitely run it in Xerix, right? Though getting 2 artifacts on Xerix, I think you can just do better with other cards, right? I wouldn't run this in Xerix or Mythron, to be honest. This is more for sock, which is good. Because I think Xerix needs, especially if he's running Obelisk, he needs all the cards, specific cards, tutored to that deck. And that's, I don't think you'll find one, because this takes up a card in your deck, a space in your deck. So I don't think Xerix would appreciate just having 38 cards. Anyways, we got Obdurator. That's a mouthful. Obdurator, which is a 2-mana epic artifact, gives your general +1 attack. At the start of your turn, repair all artifacts by 1 durability. The +1 attack is significant, right? Allows you to go face, and at the start of your turn, you repair it. Fantastic. Very good sock support. Very, very good sock support. Artifact support as well. You could even run this in, heck, you can even run this in Xerix. It's not limited to it's like, sort of like Falsius, right? Just sticks around, and you're still taking damage, but if you're okay with taking damage, you can get some very good trades early game with this card. So not limited to just Sock. Mythron and Xerix can use this. This is a fantastic card. We got Orb Rider, excuse me. 2-mana 2/2. Common. Opening Gamut. Return a friendly minion, nearby minion, to your action bar. Can go well, right? This is great with OG effects, right? So if you want to go face a lot, throw back some Azure Heralds, right? And Flameblood Warlocks, respectively, depending on how you want to play the game. So that's decent. The caveat is you have to run a 2/2, and it's most likely going to die. Usually when you're throwing things back to your hand, it's usually late game. I don't think there are any OGs in this expansion so far. Yeah, there's no OG outside of this guy, so this is pretty much just for OGs. Bloodshot Alchemist, Healings, Azure Herald, Healing Mystic, Flameblood Warlock, etc. EMP, I don't think you would want to throw an EMP back into your hand unless you really needed the Mass Dispel. Of which, at that point, if you had a Sand Swirl, I'd probably just use the Sand Swirl on it. But this is great. Moving on. I don't think... There are just better cards to run. I don't think this will see that much play anyways. In Gauntlet, maybe. If you draft a lot of OGs, maybe you'll see play this. But otherwise, I wouldn't really run this at all. Got Planar Foundry, which is a 1-mana spell. Draw an artifact from your deck. It's random. It could be a tutor if you're just running one of each, right? One Obdurator, one Wildfire Ankh, and one Spine Cleaver. I think that's, let me get this a little bit back to where it was. There we go. You can definitely make that happen. It's 1 mana, and it cycles itself pretty much, right? Until you have no more artifacts. So, great artifact support. I don't know if you could just go 1-woman army. You definitely can. But it's going to be tough without Falsius now. But there are a lot of cards that giving the archetype support. So, Falsius, you can you're not going to be too much at a loss without it. Granted, Falsius is probably was one of the best Vetruvian cards, but there are new cards that replaced it, and you can definitely make things work without it. But anyways, we got Synaptic Arbitrage, which is a 4-mana spell, epic spell. Give your opponent a minion to take control of. Give your opponent a minion to take control of nearby enemy minions with less attack. Give your opponent a minion to take control of nearby minions with less attack. So you're basically trading one minion for a bunch of minions on their end. That's how I interpret it. So if you have a Spelljammer and they have a bunch of anything less than 2-3 attack, you could take control of that, but they get a Spelljammer. I don't know how I feel about that. Doesn't seem very good. So anyway, moving on. Oh, nice. We got an evolution to Starfire Scarab because I love Starfire Scarab. If you guys don't know, it's one of my favorite Vetruvian cards. Anyways, moving on. We got a 6-mana, 5/7 legendary Swarm King Scarab. Blast. Whenever this minion blasts, summon 1/1 Scarbite. Scarabite. With flying and rush in those spaces. So if this blasts more than one minion, you get 2 Scarabites. Or if you blast a flying rush in those spaces. So it's assuming it kills it, because if you do this on the general, you'll still only get 1. Or you won't get 1. But it's expensive. Flying and rush, 1 extra damage. It's interesting. It's a big minion. 6 mana. Contests with Almara and Grapnel. It's going to be interesting how this card sees play. I wouldn't run. I'd rather just run a Starfire Scarab, to be honest. Because this is highly contingent on this killing something. In those spaces. So, because if you're going to take control of the space, that means you have to kill the minion, right? So if it fails, it should KO most things, right? 5 attack, they'll get rid of most minions. Otherwise, you're not going to get the little 1/1s. But is that a real big concern? If you're able to do 5 damage, I'd probably use this just to go face most of the time, to be honest. But that's just me. It's interesting. It might be a little bit... I don't know, I think Starfire is just better because you can get it out earlier. And it has great stats as is, so... I don't know. This is cool. I love it. I might play with it. But I think there just might be better cards, right? You know, just playing an Imara I think might just be a better play. Because that's the provoke and the effect, right? But Blast is nothing to... is very threatening as well, so that's... those are 2 different things there. Anyways, we got Wither, the last card, which is a 3-mana epic, or excuse me, rare spell. An enemy minion disappears at the start of your turn. So... it's like if you mixed Entropic Decay with Blood of Air. And it's just cheaper, but has a really big drawback. Means your opponent can do something with it. This is only good if you create a distance between you and the minion you cast this on. Between Blood of Air and Sandstorm. This is a decent budget option if you just want to pull on this expansion and don't have really any other core cards, then yeah, go for this. But Blood of Air is cheaper. It's a common spell, so it's cheaper to craft. So it's 120 spirit as opposed to 300. But I don't know, if you don't have Sandstorm readers, I guess maybe run this. But this seems, it's outclassed in my opinion. I'd rather just play 2 more mana, because it basically dies on the 4 mana turn play. So, and on 4 mana you're trying to contest the center of the board, or at least that's the general strategy, right? Contest the center of the board. Okay, I don't know if you guys heard that, but There are a lot of ambulances and police sirens and fire truck sirens in Boston, so yeah. Sorry about that. But anyways, this is not the greatest in my opinion, especially in the early game. It's extra removal, which can be helpful in Gauntlet and in late game if you decide to run it in Constructed. But other than that, I don't think it's that great. Now we're moving on to my faction, Abyssian, which is great. Hopefully we got some good cards. But anyways, before we start, I'm just going to get some, refill some of my water, and I'll get back to you guys in just a second.